idea. I said, how about we have a demonstration? And I said, when is a good time, Danny? And he said, well, 4 o'clock's when Wall Street lets out. And you can really talk to, you know, the traders. Yeah, boy, that's a pun intended. You can talk to the Federal Reserve low-level minions coming out of the private cancer that is the seat of evil here in the United States, the Bank of England arm known as the New York Fed. So we're going to have a spontaneous demonstration actually going and peacefully protesting the private Federal Reserve parasite in New York City.
Ladies and gentlemen of Wall Street, I know there's a lot of genius bankers around, traders, a lot of financial top minds down here on Wall Street. I know you can wrap your mind around this. The Federal Reserve Bank is owned by its member banks. Bloomberg reported the Federal Reserve Bank is not a federal agency. The Federal Reserve Bank is owned by its member banks. The top 20 bankers all know the names. The top 20 banks engineer financial collapse so they can go to Congress, demand a bailout, threatening doomsday economic scenarios, and then the United States taxpayer is responsible to pay their defaulting bills.
To help answer those questions is Representative Ron Paul of Texas. Congressman Paul also wrote a new book, End the Fed. Thanks for being with us, Congressman Paul.
All governments, when they get this much debt, default. But they don't default by not paying the bills. We'll always pay the bills. The default comes from the devaluation of the currency. People are losing their purchasing power. So the common person, the average person, middle class, and the poor, especially the people who lose their jobs, we're defaulting on them all the time.
The Federal Reserve Board of Governors is a federal agency, but we all see how well they govern the financial system. The Federal Reserve System member banks include Chase, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Bank of America, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. These banks, through the Federal Reserve, control the issuance of our currency and our monetary policy. The foxes have the keys to the henhouse.
The Federal Reserve is an independent agency. There is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
I don't like the idea that the power gravitates to the Federal Reserve. They literally can have a budget, yearly budget, bigger than the whole Congress, and then what they do is kept secret. We don't even know where they spend the money.
So my question to you is, will you tell the American people to whom you lent $2.2 trillion of their dollars, will you tell us who got that money and what the terms are of those agreements?
Hundreds and hundreds of banks. Any bank or that has access to the U.S. Federal Reserve's discount.
Will you tell us who they are?
No.
They took the money, but they don't want to be public about the fact that they received it.
A recent audit of the Federal Reserve revealed that the Federal Reserve gave $1.6 trillion to overseas banks. I don't see how giving $1.6 trillion that we have to pay interest on to foreign banks is going to stimulate the U.S. economy. This private corporation that pretends to be a government agency.
Bernanke bill.
The
economic crisis was an inside job.
You really believe that the bankers are this stupid that they would cause this kind of economic crash? Was it stupidity? No, it was an inside job. Yeah. Because when the market crashes, money doesn't just disappear, it floods into their pockets.
Right.
Out of ours, into theirs.
They benefit on the way up and down.
How much is your 401k worth as compared to 10 years ago? Where do you think all that money went? To the pockets of the Federal Reserve Bank and its members.
So the issue is, this is the real establishment. This is who needs to be identified. Not their puppet Obama, not their puppet Mitt Romney, their puppet George W. Bush. We need to talk about the real criminals, the people that have engineered this global collapse to re-engineer society.
There is no authority in the Constitution authorizing a central bank, which means there should be no Federal Reserve System.
The Federal Reserve Bank of New York itself admits, as is reported by Bloomberg, that the Federal Reserve Bank is a private banking institution and it is owned by its member banks. Thomas Jefferson said,
and I sincerely believe with you that banking establishments are more dangerous than standing armies, and that the principle of spending money to be paid by posterity under the name of funding is but swindling futurity, the future, on a large scale.
The issuing power of money should be taken away from the banks and restored to the people with whom it properly belongs.
Amen.
The Constitution of the United States requires that the Congress, we can fire Congress. If they screw up the economy, if they screw up monetary policy, we can fire them through the electoral process. They are our representatives. We cannot fire the CEO of Chase Bank. We cannot fire Jamie Dimon or Lord Blankfein. These are unelected people controlling the issuance of United States currency. For every dollar that the Federal Reserve prints, that is $1 plus interest. We all know that the banks aren't paying interest. They export all their profits overseas to avoid taxes. The American people, however, are paying all the interest on this money. Meanwhile, according to the Constitution, it's our money. Why should we be paying taxes and interest on money that belongs to us? If the Congress were to take back the power of issuing currency, there would no longer be any interest associated.
Amen.
Well, I think the Fed has done a wonderful job for Wall Street, but, you know, the people, the average guy lost a lot of money. They come in with more credit and pump it up and bail out all the big guys and getting all these bonuses for these individuals who should have failed, and they claim there's a recovery. But the recovery ought to be measured by the people working.
The Fed only has one tool, and that is creating more money. We got ourselves into this mess because we spent too much, borrowed too much, inflated too much, and regulated too much.
The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that.
And we're trying to get out of it by spending more, printing more, regulating more. You can't print money and get yourself out of trouble. People know that. Grade school kids know this. You can't use monopoly money and make it work.
Inflation causing the prices of goods and services to go up till there'll be plenty of food on the shelves, but we just won't be able to afford to buy it.
Your paycheck might be worth a little less than usual this week. That's because the value of the U.S. dollar has dropped to historic lows because of fears about the health of the U.S. economy.
But the question should be, when do I expect prices to go up? I said we're in the midst of it. A lot of commodity prices are going up.
2 weeks ago, the top banksters were here meeting at the Fed with the Treasury Department. This is the first time since the collapse of Lehman Brothers that all 20 banks met together with the Treasury. Last time they met, they hatched the bailout scheme where they stole trillions of dollars from the American people. What scheme did they hatch this time? We were told that the stimulus, we were giving money to the banks so they would have money then to lend out to the middle class so then we could expand our businesses, hire new people, create jobs, and stimulate the economy. Those banks sat on all that TARP money. That's right, they used the stimulus money for bonuses and to consolidate and buy out other banks. They did not lend back to the American people as was the plan that they sold us. Well, now it's a couple of years later, S&P just downgraded us, they're threatening another downgrade, and what's going to happen when the other agencies jump on board? Interest rates will go up, and guess what? They'll be able to lend that money that we gave them, and we're paying interest on, they'll lend it back to us at a higher interest rate, double dipping on profit margin. The Federal Reserve Bank is a private banking cartel. It is not a federal agency. You can read about it at The Economic Crisis was an InsideJob.com. You can read all about how the Federal Reserve Ponzi scheme is writing checks from an empty account and then charging us interest.
We at least should start ending the Fed by allowing competition. I don't like the idea that they have monopoly control. It's a cartel. They get to print the money. And the Constitution really doesn't give them that authority.
Founders knew and understood something about inflation. The runaway inflation of the continental dollar was devastating to the economy, so they were explicit. They said no emitting of bills of credit, no printing money, no paper money, and that only gold and silver should be legal tender.
And the Fed! 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 And the Fed!
I'm Ed Griffin.
This is Adam Kogan.
I'm Sheriff Richard Mack.
I'm Jesse Ventura.
And you're watching.
You're watching TruthSquad.tv, a show you shouldn't miss.